Welcome to Gut Punch, the podcast that explores life-changing moments. Hosted by Kathryn Lancioni, a seasoned educator with personal insights into resilience. Kathryn shares how life can change in an instant, shaping our path forward. Each episode features inspiring guests who face their own gut punch moments. Guests share their journeys through loss, upheaval, and triumph. What to expect: honest conversations, lessons in resilience, inspiration for growth. Join Kathryn as she highlights courage and perseverance in every story. Gut Punch is a reminder that there is always a path forward. Be part of the conversation. Register now to join Kathryn for today's journey.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Gut Punch. My name is Kathryn Lancioni, and I'm your host for today's episode. Today, we'll be joined by Ken Steeves, who is someone who has experienced more gut punches than anyone should ever have to. We're going to talk about what happened, what he's learned, and how he's channeled all these learnings into trying to help other people. So, Ken, first of all, thanks for being on the show. Welcome to Gut Punch. And if you could share a little bit about yourself with everybody, that would be great.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. This is great. My name is Ken Steeves, as you had mentioned, and I'm physically located in Connecticut. A little bit about myself. I'm currently a partner and manager director for a firm named Creative Planning that's based in Kansas City. We work nationwide and internationally, and I kind of oversee the Northeast. That's my what I do with the majority of my time during the day. And then more recently created a foundation where I'm the president and CEO of. It's called It's Free to Dream. Our website's itsfreetodream.org. And the focus of that foundation is to support mental health, create suicide awareness, and run a number of events and donate 100% of the proceeds to mental health organizations, here locally to start, help boost their platforms.
That's great. And I know that we'll both be together at your event in Connecticut on December 14th. So which I'm really looking forward to being part of. So Ken, if you could walk us through what your organization does and how it came to be. I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, so it's something I've been thinking about for a long time with my brother-in-law, who's the vice president of the foundation, Chris Taft. And both of us have gone through a number of situations through our lifetime where we wanted to maybe build a benefit for something to help others. And 10 years ago, December 14th will be 10 years of my mother's suicide. So that's her anniversary date of that. And when we kicked around the idea this past year or two, we figured it was finally time to put together, a foundation and a 501c3 organization. So that's what we did. And through this effort, we've been actively fundraising, doing multiple panels and interviews. It's been a blast. I've met some wonderful people like yourself that's joining. Thank you for coming to the event. Yeah. So through the foundation, we then had to start the research for where we wanted these funds to go. And we're honing in on three organizations: Bridges Healthcare locally here in Connecticut, Boys and Girls Village, and 𝗬𝗏. Which is one of my favorites. That is essentially a platform to help mental health for the youth, which is kind of what I'm focused on. As ages 10 through 24, suicide is the second leading death cause currently. One of our focuses is towards the youth.
I love that. And I just, to talk more kind of about what's happened in your own family life. Your mom's suicide, unfortunately, is not the only one that you've experienced.
Yeah, so that wasn't the first. As a young kid, growing up in a household, you don't really know what normal is, right? So everyone goes through some pain experiences. And so when I was at a young age, my mother's sister actually took her life, my Aunt June. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time, and didn't understand, the emotions that I saw my mother going through in the household and things of that nature.
How old were you when that happened?
I don't remember the exact age, but I think I was probably around 8 years old or something like that. Maybe even a little bit younger.
Because the reason I'm asking is it's like when you're that young, like someone taking their life, as you just said, like you don't really understand it, and they're there today, then they're not, and that must have been just really weird.
Yeah, no, I didn't. And I mean, I saw the pain my mother was going through. And, at that day and time, I feel like we've made some progress in mental health and the society and people talking about it. But back then, it really was kind of frowned upon and almost an embarrassment. So when I was 10 years old, I actually came home from school one time. That was the first time I saw my mother attempt to take her life. And when she was sitting on the floor with a bottle of bleach, and I had made a phone call, and essentially that saved her life that day. But even then, I went to school after that and there was no one to talk to. I didn't bring it up. I didn't mention it because it was embarrassing. And
Yeah.
so that whole stigma it's still there, but at that point was really more significant than it is today, which we're still in the first inning of getting there, but I can see some progress happening.
And take me through what that was like when you come home and you see your mom with a bottle of bleach on the floor trying to kill herself. I mean, because our parents, when we're that age, like our parents, we look up to them. Like they're supposed to know everything. And
Yep.
I remember like, you know, your parents are like the ultimate authority on everything. And then what was that like for you?
I mean, at that time, I didn't really know.
Yeah.
She was sitting Indian style on the kitchen floor, and I knew something wasn't right. So, one of her friends from church ended up coming over and talking to her and all of that. And I woke up the next day and went to school like it was another normal day. Looking back, it obviously was. It obviously wasn't. But like as I mentioned, when you're a child, you don't know what normal is.
That's right.
So I don't, I don't think it was handled properly. I didn't, get any help or anything like that. It was just, the next 2 days she brought me back to soccer practice like nothing happened.
Yeah.
So there were a number of situations where, I knew she was struggling and things like that, but I didn't know the volume of it. And now, that I'm older and have done research, done panels, and done interviews and podcasts, I've learned that they could have been handled a little bit differently if I had more support, especially in the school systems.
Yeah. And I think, you're right. We're still in the first inning on all this. I mean, I think it's wonderful that mental health is now a part of the conversation, and the importance of it obviously cannot be stressed enough. But I think that, people are starting to talk about it. But I do feel that in certain parts of society, it's still a little bit taboo to talk about it. And
Yeah.
that's, and,
Yeah. And
you know,
I could, be guilty and say I was even one of those people. If we're having this conversation 15 years ago, I'm not sure how open I am. This is the kind of the first time I've been vulnerable about my life. It's taken me 10 years from my mother's death to get to this point where I'm doing something significant. So in a sense, I feel like, I'm trying to provide the voice that she no longer has, to carry it on. And I could have done it, could have started doing, making a difference maybe a while back, but never. Better late than never. But yeah, I mean, this is when I speak on December 14th. A lot of people aren't aware of what I've kind of been through because, it's easy to say you're fine and put that fake smile on, and
right.
everyone's struggling with something and everyone has a bad day sometimes. And with our careers, we're forced to kind of just go through it and act like everything's okay. Through this process, I've really learned that the majority of folks are handling or dealing something, and the minority of people aren't.
Everybody has
really
something, right? And I think
opened my eyes how
the
many people are
strength comes in
struggling
our
with
ability to
something in their
share what that
lives.
something is with people. I know for me, what I went through, like, I don't have to talk about it, but I do, because I think that it provides a really valuable lesson to other people and helps people kind of go through or navigate through what their challenges are. Okay. So Ken, your mother and your aunt taking their own lives. I know it was years apart, but I'm sure that the effect of both has been a lot on you. What have you learned about yourself as a result of having two close family members, take their life? How do you think it's impacted you?
Yeah, I mean, that's only two. I mean, I've been there's been others as well. Obviously, when it happened with my mother, 10 years ago, that was my, gut punch, if you want to call it, where made me kind of step back and reevaluate how I was doing, how others were around me were doing. And it had initially it's shock, you kind of don't really know what's going on. It doesn't feel real. That went on for probably a couple of years, actually. And
Okay.
then the shock slowly kind of starts to, bleed into your system and, takes a toll on you mentally, physically, where you don't really know how to address it. And so it took me a while to, I guess, get my arms around that a little bit, where I feel like I'm in a good spot now, and a lot of help, support, surrounding me, including, professional help and stuff like that over the years that have really
Right.
kind of helped direct me and get the train back on track. So it didn't slow me down or change my life much in terms of my like career and social life and things of that nature. I've always been a very outgoing, outspoken person even before and after, but internally I was different before and after. And people don't see that from the outside, but I saw it from the inside and, kind of covered that up a little bit.
How has it changed you in terms of how you lead your daily life or how you interact with other people?
It's talking to anyone I could see, holding the door for people, that little stuff. If you're on an airplane, talk to the person next to you. There's actually two people I travel quite a bit for work, and just randomly two strangers I met on an airplane are coming to the event. They both have lost someone to suicide, and a person that drove me to the airport, I had a conversation with him. We were just talking. He's coming to the event. So it's like, it's really expanded and made me realize, I mean, literally every people that you would never imagine are kind of going through something, and everyone has a story. And I guess listening more, being an ear, not being so private. I generally was a private person with my private life. I wouldn't talk about the fact that I have been in therapy for things and stuff like that. And now anyone with an ear, I'll say, hey, look, all the professional athletes, they each have a therapist. All the, big presidents, CEOs of all these major corporations have one. It's not, don't be embarrassed. Go there, talk, get stuff off your chest. It's helpful. And, I was never like that in the past, but now it's, I'm trying to make it more of a normal, I guess.
Well, and we're a society of people that are filled with, oh, I'm good. Oh yeah, I'm great, whatever. And usually those people aren't. And I know for me, what I went through personally, a couple of things for me. I know I try to be more present, less focused on what's next, but focused on the now. And I'm very honest about how things are going. And I've realized, when people say, hey, how are you? They expect you to say, oh, I'm great. I'm okay. I'm fine. Right.
Right. Yeah.
But when you say, you know what, like, I'm not great.
Yeah.
That's unexpected. Right. And I don't know about for you, but I have found when I am that viscerally honest with people, that it opens the door into a conversation that neither of us expected. But what it does is it also offers an opportunity for people to share. And I think that's so incredibly important. You know what I mean? Like, you talk to people about your event, like, that's amazing. And the fact that they're coming, like, that's even more amazing.
Yeah. I've seen, you see a little bit of both sides. I mean, there's people that are, will roll their eyes still and say, hey, this is a mental health suicide thing. And you can feel it and you're like, whatever. But the majority of people have been very supportive. I love what you just said there. For you had to focus on the present. Kevin Hines, our keynote speaker, one of the, top 10, I think, speakers for mental health globally, is our keynote speaker. And one of the lines he always says is, today's called the present for a reason. It's a gift.
That's right.
And he said that to me once. I never forgot it. So when I just heard you say you focus on the present, I try to do that as well. Tomorrow's not a guarantee for anybody. And I think, one of the things I'm trying to focus on personally in my life is, trying not to sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. And if you really peel back the onions, that's for the second half of my life, is to kind of slow down a little bit, embrace your surroundings, the people that are around you, take a breath of fresh air, and provide good and hope to others if you can. And look, I'm going to have bad days for the rest of my life still. Everyone will. Your worst day is someone's best day. So you see that person, at the grocery store, say hello, because you don't know what they're going through.
Yeah. And I love kind of what I've been saying is, like, kind of life is the gift, and all, like, the craziness that we get caught up in, like, that's the window dressing. And, you can decide how much you're going to let all that little stuff bother you. But I know in my case, like, I truly feel this, like, I fought the hardest battle anybody should ever fight, and that was for my life, and I won. And now there's so much of all the craziness of the daily nuance that we can get caught up in.
Yeah. I mean, especially with, like, the social media, I mean, that's just, I don't know where that ends, but I mean, that's just causing so many issues with, youths and missing out on stuff, and everyone painting these perfect lives, which aren't really perfect. And,
and the whole FOMO.
All that stuff. And, we went through a pandemic where, I think it actually helped kind of the mental health suicide awareness anyway. And now the pandemic's kind of gone past, people are going backwards a little bit. But yeah, the social media platforms of, people feel like they're missing out, and bullying and attacking. And, I lost another family member. I'm not going to use her name out of privacy, a couple of weeks ago, 13 years old. And that took her life. And it was from being bullied in schools and things of that nature. So it's real out there. It's stuff that you never would see or imagine. And that's why, I am targeting, some of the funds that we're going to raise towards youth, because I think it starts at a young age.
Yes.
And at that age, you don't know you have it until you get older, and you're like, man, I wish I would have addressed it when I was younger. So if I can maybe help that a little bit, there's no mental health platforms in schools. There's gym and phys ed. You have to run a mile in under 10 minutes, but do they ever ask how you're doing mentally? I mean, so it's just that whole, kind of arena needs to be addressed in public schools. And for our youth.
Well, I think too, also society, like societal people may ask how you're doing, but they don't expect you to say anything but fine or good. Like
Right.
no one expects you ever to be honest, and be open. And I think that if more people were real about how they actually are doing
Yeah.
and did not have up this like wall of, oh, I'm great, life is wonderful. If people were just honest and just spoke about how they really are and recognize that we all have good days, but we also all have bad days too.
Yeah,
And
and I
that's
guess that's
okay.
it's one of those things where, if you wanna play the other side of it, like, why is that? Some people sometimes aren't comfortable talking to, whether it be a guidance counselor or a family member, a friend, things like that. I mean, this is one of the reasons. I mean, one of the benefits are companies that we're supporting called 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝘀 is essentially a 24/7 platform for youth to speak to somebody that doesn't necessarily connect it to them,
Incredible.
where they're only allowed in 3 of the 50 states so far. Why? So
Wow.
that's one of the big pushes. Hopefully we get them into Connecticut and some local schools. But yeah, what you're saying is 100% on the money. But if you'd ask that student, they might not want to tell their best friend who's 10 years old on their soccer team of what's going on, or their parents who may, feel attacked because they're saying, oh, is that because of how I treat you? So there's a number of different nuances. And of course, kids aren't going to want to necessarily go to therapy. They have to find right therapists, which is a whole nother ball of
Right.
wax because you could barely get a therapist these days. If you go through insurance, there's waiting lists. You have to wait forever. Well, that might be too long. So we need immediate access, ways that they could talk and ways that they could be comfortable now, like immediately.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, as you're saying, it starts in schools and it starts when these kids are young.
Hmm.
Create the environment, using vocabulary, having a dialogue that's open, that's warm, that's supportive, that's welcoming. I think, and the more, it's like when we're little, as parents, we teach our kids to say please and thank you. We teach kids to shake each other, to shake hands when they meet somebody for the first time. Why can't we teach them to ask someone a question like, "How are you doing?" And then
Yeah, I mean, we're teaching them the human anatomy and Spanish and all this stuff at age 4. Why don't we talk to them a little bit about
mental
how to
health.
handle hard times in life? Not
Yeah.
necessarily suicide and stuff like that, but just if you're having a bad day, if you're having, So I think, again, that's out of my pay grade to be able to address some of that. But if I can move that needle just a little bit, I feel like
That's right.
maybe some others will as well, and we can make some progress.
That's right. I mean, I think too, the challenge is like, and I think it's wonderful, like athletes like Michael Phelps, who have come out and
Yeah.
talked about their own mental health struggles. Because I think that's so incredibly
Yes,
important. And I
yes.
think more and more that people like that show that it's okay. I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
that they're
literally
robust
every
enough.
single professional athlete, as far as I'm aware, or the majority of them, they all have I mean,
That's
they
right.
have a therapist. Every team has a mental, so, Tom Brady, he has one. I mean, so it's one of those things where, that stigma needs to be removed. And like I said, I think we're making a little progress towards that. But if I could show my vulnerability publicly on a much smaller stage at this point of the game, but if it gets too big, then, I'm willing to do that.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I think too, I think people, we're talking about Kevin briefly. I think,
Yep.
what Kevin Hines is doing in his
Amazing,
open
man.
conversation.
Yeah.
Amazing man, and what he learned from his own attempt at suicide is just a phenomenal story. And I think, the more that we get people who are just everyday people and also people like Michael Phelps to talk about the mental health challenges that they had, that's how we move the needle. And it may move slowly,
Definitely.
but as long as it moves, we're going into that right direction. And I think part of this too is like also it's okay to talk about how you feel, but it's also like it's okay to share emotion. Like men should cry, boys should be able to cry. And that for so long has been something that's not supposed to happen, right? Women are considered the emotional
Yeah,
ones, but
I don't know the
men
exact
are so emotional too, right?
yeah, I
So
don't know the
important.
exact number, so don't quote me on this, but I think it's something like
Yeah,
84% of suicides are males or something. Oh, it's a large number, 70, 85.
right.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the, I don't know if it's a generational thing, but the whole, tough thing, so
Yeah,
hearing people like Michael Phelps, like you mentioned, you know, public names, talk about death and mental health and how they're addressing it. It is slowly, like you said, the needles are it's moving by an inch, but at least it's going in the right direction. And
yeah, that's right.
hopefully, podcasts like this and discussions like, the event that you're helping me host on
Right.
December 14th can help move that needle a little further.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's there's so much. And I think, but society, we always try to make things so complicated, right? And I think it's just like, just people just talked
Yeah.
and people just listened. And if we got rid of these stereotypes that men aren't supposed to cry, that's so silly. If we could all just be people
Hmm.
and learn to listen to each other as opposed to asking some quick question that we don't expect a response to and then looking at our phones pretending that we're occupied. Put the phone down, listen to the person in front of you.
Yeah, I mean,
We can,
listening is more important than talking. Sometime, we were given
yeah,
2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should listen twice as much as we talk. And somebody said that to me once. I never forgot it, and it's true. Put it down, put everything aside, sit there and listen.
it is. I teach a listening class. I'm gonna have to, I
Yeah.
have to use that when I talk to my students. But I think, what have you, Ken, what have you learned about being stuck? I mean, I think so many people that listen to the show and so many people just in life feel stuck right now for various reasons. How did you motivate to start this organization in memory of your mom? What wasn't that moved the needle for you?
Yeah, and it's because sometimes when you're stuck, you don't know that you're stuck. So I think for a while there, I don't know if I want to use the word denial or whatever it was, but you kind of, can't. The timing just kind of happens when you least expect it, So, it was one of those scenarios where we were just kind of, I was with my brother-in-law, some other board members, 𝗪𝗏𝗏, 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏, some of the best friends I've had since I was in middle school. 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗏, 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗀. We literally came together on a couch and said, you know what, let's do this. And, the idea started with it just being kind of a, one-time event, so to speak. And then we started the foundation, and then I got connected with, 𝗘𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏, who's become literally a dear friend of mine, like a brother.
Right.
And now we've done a number of, panels and foundation. And so it's really taking off. And I'm seeing, look, if just a guy like me who really was just trying to put on this one type of event can get to where our foundation has gotten to in only 4 months, what else can we do from here?
Where else can we
Yeah,
go?
I mean, what could others be doing? I mean, this was literally just supposed to be, and I mean, I'm gonna be speaking at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland in January. I didn't see that coming. I wasn't
Right.
planning on speaking on the real summit in New York City a week or two ago. But
Right.
this is just one small group of friends from middle school creating this foundation that has now kind of blossomed into this, startup company that's really taking off. And where can we go from here? What can others do to help? Kind of go from there. And you have to want it to do it at the end of the day, because a lot of this stuff is, you're volunteering your time and you have to believe in it. But once you get involved, I can tell you, it's a great space. I've met some incredible people going through this process, you included. I really appreciate you having me on this. But yeah, it's exciting. It's been a whirlwind, and I don't know where we're going to go from here, but it's going to be special. I can promise you that.
Well, I think I know for myself, our podcast is only a couple weeks old and we've already had literally a global response to it. I think people are in just need of places where they can talk and they can be themselves
Yeah.
and they can be real. And I know, from my own experience that it's just so nice to be able to share with other people.
Yeah. I mean, the foundation was established on August 15th. I've received 4 handwritten letters from people I would have never expected already. So I'm like, my goal for the foundation wasn't necessarily to raise, I mean, it's to raise funds for these organizations, but the primary focus was to make people feel comfortable here, that they could have a voice and be able to talk to others. And I was like, if I could save one life or affect one person positively, then everything I did was worth it. And then, seeing, a couple of handwritten letters that are hanging on my wall, literally in my room, I'm already making some type of an impact. Our organization's making some type of an impact, and it's worth every, a life is worth it, doing whatever you have to do. So it's really just motivated me and fueled my fire.
I love that. All right. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thought to end on. So Ken,
Yeah.
how can people get hold of you to learn more about the foundation?
So our link is itsfreetodream.org. So if you go on there, there's a place to donate and sign up, and also contact for email. So that'd be probably the best start, to reach out with there.
Great. And you're on LinkedIn as well, so people can connect with
LinkedIn,
you
we
on
have
there.
It's Free to Dream LinkedIn, if you can follow us there. Instagram, we have It's Free to Dream, which we post, stuff and events coming up, which I would, encourage you to follow. LinkedIn is probably our largest following in terms of contact and messaging that comes directly to me. So It's Free to Dream is the name of that. My name again is Ken Steeves Jr. You can follow me as well as LinkedIn, as I post some things about the mental health and what we're doing as well.
Well, I look forward to being with you in person on December 14th.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's been enjoyable. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, of course, it's a lot of fun. I'm so glad that we met and that we got to chat, and I'm so excited to be involved with the organization. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I just want to thank you for taking the time today. I love the conversation and so many great lessons learned.
Thank you, Kathryn. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Gut Punch, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for today's episode of Gut Punch. I hope you found inspiration, because no matter how hard life hits, there's always a way forward. Make sure to follow or subscribe to Gut Punch on your favorite podcast platform. If you know someone who could use a little inspiration, share this episode with them. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay strong. See you in the next episode.